So with those sections, which was the backing, whatever you use for the middle, and then the top coat there, and then basically you sew all the way around. I'm kind of just being brief here with the sewing and things. I mean, if you want more detail about that, I could probably do another video, or you can ask questions and inbox me or something. So to get this finish, really, I first stitched the top coat to the inner, and I did that down the center. Why did I do that? I did that because I didn't want the inside, you don't want all this bunching up and stuff inside your knickers and things. That would just be not comfortable. So I did a stitch, as you can see on here, all the way down the center, just to seal it together on the, and that was just with the top and the inner. And then I did a stitches round, just around the edges as well, just because I liked it to be secure. And then, so once those two are stitched together, you can then add the backing and stitch that on. Now, your finish depends on you as a person, how you want it finished. The very first one I made was just rough and ready, and I didn't like turn it through, if that makes sense. So if I show you this one here, this is one I made. This is like a real big, thick one I've made. This one, you can see, it's quite slapdash really, because it's just for me in my house. I'm not, you know, who's going to see who am I showing? But like, I haven't turned it through. The edges are just raw, so that meant that instead of turning it that way to stitch it, I just put it the normal way and just stitched it on top, if that makes sense. And here's one that I actually turned through, which meant that when I stitched all the way round, it was backwards, and I left a little bit open so that I could turn it through like that, and then stitch at the edge. So it depends on what finish you want really. I did this as professional as I could, with like a top stitch round the edge so it was more smooth. I mean, the stitching doesn't have to be perfect, because you're just making it for you really. And I did make a buttonhole. I didn't actually end up using the buttonhole. I didn't even end up stitching the button on, because that's another thing, is basically, you know, how do you use them, and I'll show you that in a bit. You see the back is just stitching really. You haven't got to get it perfect, because it's not for anybody else, and if you're making them to sell them, then fair enough. Yeah, so that was like a professional one. This is one which I just turned through and stitched. Didn't do the top stitching on this one, so it's just loose on the back. And then this one, I didn't turn through. I just stitch it around all the edges real quick. And that's the thing really, is you decide how you do it. Like, you could just make one day, one another day, or like I did, just cut out a whole batch of your top sheets all together, get all your inner bits ready, get all a wad of the backing ready as well. So then you just like this production line, depending on how many you want. Because I think for my cycle I kind of used like about 14, and that's not that I use every single one of them, it's just I liked to have the choice of absorbencies. And for example, like one day, or like the start or the end, you might just use like a panty liner version. So you might, you know your flow, so you'll make more panty liner versions if you're already light, or if you're really heavy, you'll make like some of the heavier ones, or nighttime ones. Like this one I'd probably class as like a nighttime one, or a postpartum, like after you've had a baby. And so you know your flow, and that's what you'll learn once you try them for the first time. So if you're trying it for the first time, making them for the first time, I recommend just using fabrics that you already have in your home, apart from just buying like the polar fleece, which I think you can kind of get readily anywhere. I mean, you can get it in the UK. I know definitely you can get it in the States. The States you can get a lot more things as well that I've seen. Some people use bamboo cloth. Some people use velour, minky. There's just so many different things that you can use, but I just use cotton and polar fleece, and then like microfiber inside or cotton inside. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to how to use them, or how should I say, how I've used them, because there's so many different ways people use them, and you will decide on how you want to use them. So let's start with putting them on. Okay, so this is one that I bought, one of the first ones I bought. I think it's called Essence of Eve on Etsy, which is American. One thing I will say is, because I'm in the UK, I bought it from the States, which meant I had to pay the shipping, and it took a lot longer to come. So if you're in the UK, I would say try and buy from a UK seller or make it yourself. But I wouldn't recommend buying them from other people anyway now, because I know how to make them myself, and now I find that I use the ones that I made more because I trust them more. I know what they're made of. I know what their absorbency is. They're just comfortable, you know. These aren't bad, they're just, yeah, I just prefer my own. Okay, so basically I probably should have bought some knickers to show you, but you know what a pad is, right? Most of the ones that are made in the stores have, not stores, you know, handmade, they have poppers on them, plastic poppers or metal poppers, and you basically pop them around your knickers instead of like the sticky back winged. Some brands have like one popper, some have two, like depending on how small the gusset is on your pants, you basically do that. And you, again, trial and error, you'll find that, oh gosh, it's shifting a bit, maybe I need to be a bit tighter, or maybe have a bit looser or whatever. And that will sit in your knickers there like that, and then obviously you'll bleed basically on there. And then when you finish using them, as in like after a couple of hours, like 1 or 2 hours or 3 hours, or depending on, the maximum I would say is 4 hours, just probably you judge it the same as a disposable, or depending on your flow. Yeah, on your flow mainly, because this one is only like a regular, so it's not built to last for a big long flow. There was a few times I had to like pray that oh my goodness, it lasted for my shift. That was in the early days when I only had 5. I was like, oh my goodness, please, and it did. It lasted till I got home. It didn't like crazy leak everywhere or anything. Okay. I mean, the most it did was just saturate there. That's just that wasn't like, it wasn't leaking all over the show, it was just saturated like there, and that was because I'd had it on for too long really. Not too long, it was more, my flow was heavier than the pad itself, because I was trialing and error in the beginning. So I would recommend trialing and error while you're at home, because I was just, remember I was like, right, this is do or die, I'm doing this with 5 pads, so I was desperate. But I wouldn't recommend doing that. I'll wait till you've got about 12, or at least, you know, good 7 or something, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. So ultimately, you've used it, and then you'd basically go, when it's time to change it, you'd unpop it, and then you'd fold it over like this. This is how I'd do it. I'd fold it over like that, and then I'd pop the poppers together like that, so it's just kind of contained a bit, because basically once the blood is in the pad, it dries, and it doesn't smell or anything, because it's just dried blood. It's no like chemicals that are making it go crazy, smelly or whatever. It's just blood, isn't it really? So then I would put it into like what I classed as my wet bag, which was just like an old cosmetic case really, but it's got like a waterproof kind of lining. Again, I was just desperate, so I just used the next best thing I had. There are more sophisticated wet bags you can get, but this just fitted in my bag, and it was discreet, and it had a zip as well, so that it could contain, you know, any odour or anything like that. So then I just pop that into my bag like that. I'd have clean pads on one side, and then the used ones would be folded up. So that one will be folded like that, and there's another brand that I folded like that, and that obviously took up more space because this is a heavier one. But you just organise them how you want to. But there are, as I said, there's more sophisticated. This is like a huge wet bag, which you could probably like have in your bathroom or wherever. But this one's actually made out of PUL, so it's like a fabric on the outside and like it's got like a lining in the inside. And again, it's got a zip, so that it contains everything in there. But once your pads are folded over, the backing usually stops any wetness getting onto anything else. Obviously depending on how your flow is and how, you know, if you like, anyway, yeah. So that's how you would, like, when I was out and about, I would put my pads in there, dirty ones, and take out a clean one, put a new one, and it felt so good putting a fresh one on, because it was just, because it wasn't plastic, it was fabric, and it was comfortable against your skin, and just soft, you know, just like putting on a new pair of knickers really. And I just really recommend them because they're like comfortable. There was no sounds, shifting sounds and stuff when you know, when you're in the toilet, ripping them off your pants. It's just, we take the poppers off. Yeah. One of the first ones I made, I did put a button on that, look, but it came off. But what I found was that, I mean, the ones that I've used without buttons, I didn't even have a fastener on them. But I had to be careful when I obviously pulled my knickers down, because then I didn't want it to fall off and fall into the toilet. That did happen once, and so I just chucked it in the bin. I'm not even taking it home. But yeah, so just if you're not going to put any poppers or buttons on them, you can just fold them under your knickers, and they actually stay in place, because your body heat will kind of keep that in place anyway. You can buy the popper machines as well. They're like less than a tenner, and you get like lots of different coloured poppers in the packs. You can use the poppers to make like tops, bibs, you know, whatever. But they're really handy if you're planning on making a lot of these. Wow. Okay, so I think that's that. So washing and care. So obviously you're gonna have to clean them once you've used them. What I did was when I got home, because I was out and about a lot, so obviously you might have a different system if you're just at home, but I used to go to work every day, so it was something that needed to be convenient, and I needed to make it work. So what I did was, once I'd had the used ones, now this is my care, because there's so many different ways. Some people just throw them in the washing machine and that's it. Some people soak them for hours and What I did was, when I got home, the used ones, I opened them up and I run them under the cold tap to get rid of all the blood, basically, run it out. And it has to be the cold tap, because hot water, it actually seals the iron in the blood, so it makes the blood stick, because iron reacts to like the hot water, so it's got to be cold water or lukewarm, but I just use the cold tap. So just run it under the cold tap, and then I would just like rub it together like this to get rid of any like residue, and squeeze it out. You'd have to run it for a while depending on your flow really. Just make sure the water runs clear. Then once the water ran clear, I would put a stain remover on it. Now I put stain remover on it because I didn't like to see the stains. I liked to know that they were clean. Yeah, so what I bought was this stain remover, which is Bunch of Farmers, and I got this from a website called Feminine Wear, and it's environmentally friendly, and it's 100% like, well, it says it's natural. Yeah, so let me read it to you. It says all natural, 100% biodegradable, Basically comes like that. It was the size of the box, but obviously I've used it. Used it over the years. It says ingredients: coconut oil, palm oil, canola oil, linseed, cuba oil, eucalyptus oil, lye, water and borax. And basically it removes grass, salt, grease, red wine, ketchup, ink and more. It's made in Canada. So you can get this in the States, but you can also get it from femininewear.co.uk in the UK. It's £3.95 now. 2014 was £3.50. Just to let you know that. Yeah, and it smelled really nice. And so what happens is whilst your pad is wet, you rub the stain remover in the area which is stained, and then you like just rub it in together a bit just to get it to work or something. And then yeah, just as much as you want it on, it kind of starts to foam up a little bit. And then what I did was I'd fold it over while it was, because it was still damp, and then I'd put it in this plastic, which is just like a Ziploc bag, but this is like one of them sturdy ones that, you know, that like cosmetics kind of come in. I just like to keep things sometimes and just reuse them. So I put it in there. So in the morning I'd wash it out, put it in there, so that when I came back from work in the evening, then it's had all day for that stain remover to work on there, damp in the bag there like that. And so then in the night I take it out, or obviously if you're at home in the day it could be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you choose on, you know, how long you leave the stain remover on. And then you wash it then. So then remember my first trial I only had 5, so I washed them by hand, which is fine. So then I used a plant-based laundry liquid. What I used was ehp. So basically you don't want to use the chemicals from laundry detergents on your pads, because it's the same thing as putting disposable ones against your skin. So you want something that's not chemicals really. So I use one called ehp in the UK, and obviously you probably got natural concoctions and things that you might use to clean your clothes with, but I used ehp. So I'll soak it and wash it and scrub it and make sure it's all clean, make sure the water run clear, and I was happy with it. And then yeah, one thing I must say is you're not to use fabric softener, because it weakens the absorbency. It puts some sort of resistance into the fabrics and stops it from absorbing. So don't use fabric softener. That's what they recommend. Okay. So then after that, I'd squeeze them, and I'd hang them just on the peg to dry, air dry, or sometimes I'd put them on the radiator. Most times, to be honest, I'd probably put them on the radiator, but not like one with holes in, because obviously you can't cover up the holes. I'd put it on the radiator and it dry quicker, and you're making sure that it's completely dry, because you don't want any like musky smells, because once obviously if it's not dry properly and you use it, it will have a musky smell when you use it, because your body heat will cause the musky smell to be musky. So make sure it's completely dry, particularly the thicker ones, like the nighttime ones and stuff, the things that were really thick, because obviously, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I think that's it for kind of care really. I mean, the one thing that I worried about really was discretion, as in like my nan who I lived with. I was like, oh my gosh, what if she sees? But I had most of the stuff in my room, like this. My used pads would be soaking in the stain remover in my room, in that. I also had a pail, because what sometimes I did, instead of just rinsing them straight away when I got home, I would fill like a metal pail which had a lid. I'd fill that metal pail with cold water and like a powdered stain remover, and I'd leave my pads soaking face down in the water, like while I was away, so that was soaking to get rid of the excess blood in there, and then I'd stain treat them and then wash them. but that I would make sure that the lid was slightly off, because it was a metal container, and the laundry stain remover I was using was like an oxygen based one, so you had to make sure you had a bit of air. Yeah, so ultimately you be as discreet as you want, and obviously with these wash bags they're quite discreet. That could be just hanging in your bathroom, or when you're travelling in your suitcase or whatever. No one really has to know unless you show them. To be honest, I was showing lots of people. Okay, I think that's about it really. Yeah, so I mean, I've shown you how to use reusable cloth pads, and some people obviously might still choose to be using disposables, but if you were to use disposables, what they recommend is to use 100% organic cotton brands only, because cotton is obviously natural, but the organic ones aren't sprayed with pesticides and they don't have the chemicals in them. One of the brands I know about is Natural Care. So if you find that you're in a situation where you have to use disposables, make sure you don't use the commercial brands. Use the, well, obviously Natural Care is a bit more commercial now, but use the organic, natural ones. Make sure you read on there. They'll tell you no toxins, no this and that. Because, for example, one particular company, put it this way actually, because disposable sanitary towels and tampons, because they come up under medical devices, that's their like heading, medical devices, they don't have to list the ingredients on there. So like brands like Always and whatever are out there, they don't have to put on the packet what's in there, because they come up as medical devices. So yeah, just on that note as well, other things like the sprays and the powders and things I was talking about, like for example the feminine wash, that I used to actually use that feminine wash, because I thought, it must keep your pH something balanced down there, you know, it's alright, but it actually contains, some of them can contain colour additives and things that are not really supposed to be down there. And basically, this is like through studies that they've done, and basically they get away with it, the companies, because they put on the packaging external use only, which is stupid really, because actually feminine wash does not just go on the outside. You're actually washing like your parts with it, and you can't stop. Even if you're washing the outer parts of like the labia, it's sensitive, though that part of your body is the most sensitive part, and it's going to go there. So they get away with it by putting external use only, and that's the same for like anti-itching creams, all the other creams that people might use to treat, let me see, medical devices, tampons, sanitary pads, and most personal lubricants. So they don't need to disclose their ingredients. And then over-the-counter drugs, medicated douches, anti-itch creams, and certain yeast infection treatments. And then what's classed as cosmetics is deodorizing sprays, powders, washes, non-medicated douches, and most wipes. It says cosmetics must not contain any poisonous or deleterious substance which may render it injurious to users under the conditions of use prescribed in the labelling. So as long as the labelling, what they're saying, as long as the labelling says that it says external use only, then you're okay, you know. And the labelling is confusing because it says apply a small amount of gel to the vaginal opening, yet the packet says for external use only. So this is some of the research I found from the report titled A Question for Women's Health, Chemicals in Feminine Health Products and Personal Lubricants. I'll put the little link thing down, the PDF down there. That was done in March 2014. So ultimately these companies are not looking out for you. Look after yourself. one of the key things, as I said in the beginning, was to returning back to the Most High in keeping His laws, statutes and commandments, and you'll be blessed, you'll be taken care of, and He'll give you instruction, show you things. Ruach will show you things and nudge you here, like she was nudging me, and I was like, okay, and then you decide what you do with that information. But the scriptures tells us that like wisdom is actually to do the instructions that you're given. So yeah, I hope you're blessed by what you're hearing. Any questions, inbox me, or inbox me or comment and stuff. I will post some of the links where you can buy some of these products, that's reusable ones, and also if you want more research as well. Thank you. Voila.